So Memorial has recently been awarded with the Right Livelihood Award, and Memorial's mission is to inform about past human rights abuses and crimes in Soviet Russia and to monitor current human rights abuses in the same area. A lot of the discussion in Sweden is about how Sweden, having such a big country as its neighbor, should act, or how our policy should be towards Russia. How do you see Swedish policy towards Russia? Is it helpful or is it less helpful from a civil society perspective?
Thank you. On the one hand, we enjoy good cooperation with our Swedish colleagues and who act with the support of Swedish government, like civil rights defenders, like Right Livelihood Award Foundation. So this is something we really appreciate, and we appreciate the involvement of Swedish embassy in Moscow in all the issues related to human rights, and their support is important to understand that we are not alone in fighting for the respect for our common values, which are human rights, rule of law and democracy. On the other hand, even though I'm not a Swedish national or Swedish taxpayer, I believe that the approaches to security that consist in building more submarines or fighter jets is money thrown out by the window, because the problems in Swedish-Russian relations lie not in the immediate military threat, but in that the current government in Russia undermines democratic institutions in Europe, in individual European member states, and it supports elsewhere those who undermine them, who create problems, and creates problems itself, like by its military intervention in Syria, which causes refugees that end up in the European Union. So this is how the threats to security become real, and that is not military intervention.
So you would rather see Swedish government spend more money on maybe outreach towards civil society and more connections between Sweden and Russia, and a less aggressive approach when it comes to military matters?
Globally, yes. I think that precisely the Swedish interest in security comes through enhancing rule of law or democratic debate and democratic institutions in Russia, because when such institutions are strengthened, there is less threat to your security, and then it's more profitable to both Russia and to Sweden in terms of, say, doing business. So to achieve or to contribute at least to the development of such institutions, it's not only about the money, but generally about connections, links, exchange with journalists, with activists, with research institutions and researchers, so that you have more expertise on Russia and your decisions are then based on informed evidence. So these are the ways that could contribute to protecting security here in Sweden and contributing to the change in Russia.
A lot of the reporting in Sweden on Russia is usually very negative, mostly about how this civil society is under assault, about abuses against human rights. Could you maybe offer a different take, maybe offer us maybe a bit of a hope spot? Any progress in Russia?
Well, when the reporting is about dark side of what's happening in Russia, it's not necessarily false. I think on most issues it's on the other hand true. But if you stop stop focusing on Russian government, if you stop focusing on one person in Russia or on Russian legislation and law enforcement, then there are signs of improvement, and this concerns the society in general, because society evolves and becomes more and more modern, whereas government becomes more and more obsolete, and things that were unimaginable even 5 years ago are possible now, in that, for example, so many people welcomed the introduction of so-called homosexual propaganda bans in 2012-2013. Now more and more people see them as obsolete. LGBT groups raise awareness about discrimination on basis of sexual orientation and generally gender-based discrimination. And even when such atrocious things that happened in Chechnya to LGBT people happened, I haven't seen anyone supporting what Kadyrov and his people were doing to LGBT people in Chechnya. 5 years ago, that would probably be very different. Now there was no support to such actions whatsoever in at least the more progressive parts of Russian society.
So you believe maybe lifting these good stories would help develop even more like this, like a positive momentum forward?
I think engaging with civil society understood as large as it can be, so including NGOs, activists, journalists, researchers, etc., is something that contributes to the democratic debate in Russia, that contributes to the evolution in the society, that finally contributes to achievement of our common goals and values. So this is the way to engage, not focusing on the government or legislation or even law enforcement, but focusing on those individuals and groups that bring change, and there are many.
Very interesting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.